Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more. When Emma crept through the front door, the warmth of the house embraced him. The sun was setting, casting a soft light through the curtains. He closed the door quietly, his gaze drifting to the stairs where Rob sat, crying. Emma just stood there, watching him sob. His makeup was smeared, the mascara streaking down his cheeks like dark tears of despair. "I thought you'd left me," Rob stuttered, his voice shaky. "I can't leave," Emma said quietly, his voice low. "We can't leave. We're trapped here." Emma turned away from Rob, but he could still feel Rob's gaze on him. The silence between them was heavy, the truth of their situation sinking in. "What do you mean, trapped?" Rob asked in a confused, quiet tone. "I tried to leave, but something stopped me. I don't know what it is, but it's impossible to get out of this strange town." Rob didn't respond verbally, but the tears he wiped away spoke volumes. Emma felt a surge of frustration but couldn't bring himself to yell at Rob. Instead, Rob glanced down at his chest, sighing, trying to change the subject. "I've got to get out of these clothes," Rob said, wobbling as he stood up. Emma nodded, silently watching as Rob walked upstairs, the soft sounds of his steps echoing. Emma remained still, looking down at his own body. He too wanted to change out of the school uniform, so he made his way to his own room. When he closed the door behind him, Emma froze, looking around at his newly decorated room. The boy band posters on the yellow walls and the makeup station on the dresser made his stomach turn. The scattered clothes, including skirts and bras, filled him with dizziness and embarrassment. The teddy bears with their dark eyes made him feel uncomfortable, and the faint scent of perfume made him nauseous. He felt completely out of place, trapped in a world that wasn't his. At the foot of the bed, instead of his suitcase, there was a white chest painted with pink flowers. Emma stepped forward and sat on the soft bed, taking a deep breath. His eyes wandered to his legs, his school shoes and tube socks still on. He kicked off his shoes and pulled off his socks, looking at his hairless, delicate legs. His toes were small and girly, and he shuddered as he ran his long nails up and down his thigh. He placed his hands on his chest, feeling the soft fabric of his school jumper, and absent-mindedly squeezed, shivering at the sensation. "This is really happening," he whispered to himself. He stood up again and began to search for the zipper of his skirt. As he removed the skirt and tie, he threw them aside, pulling off his jumper and messing up his long hair. Now in just his blouse and panties, Emma walked over to the wardrobe. Inside, a variety of feminine clothes hung: skirts, dresses, blouses, and uniforms. It took him a while to find something less extravagant, a plain blue t-shirt and old jeans. He put them on and sat in the wicker chair by the window, which offered a beautiful view of the sea. As Emma gazed at the waves crashing against the rocks below, the sound of the ocean calmed his racing mind. For a moment, he forgot about the confusion, the fear, and the uncertainty of his situation. He closed his eyes and let the peaceful rhythm of nature take him away from it all. Rob sat on the leather stool in front of his elaborate makeup station, slowly unbuttoning his blouse as if he were reluctant to reveal something he couldn't accept. His eyes were wide and tear-filled as he stared at his reflection, untucking the blouse from his skirt and letting it fall to the carpet. His eyes fell on his new body, now encased in a tight lace bra. He touched his left chest with his slender fingers, the reflection in the mirror mimicking his actions. "That can't be me," he whispered in disbelief. With shaking hands, he moved to unbuckle the bra, and once he did, he was confronted with the full reality of his transformation. He held both chests, feeling their weight in his hands, his lower lip trembling as he did. He stood up, looking around the room, a space filled with feminine touches, a large wardrobe with fashionable clothes, a double bed, and warm upholstery. Everything seemed to reflect a life that didn't feel like his. Looking down at his body, Rob noticed the way his high-waisted pencil skirt fit snugly around his waist, accentuating his new curves. His hips widened, and the hourglass shape unsettled him. He unzipped the skirt, letting it slip to his ankles, revealing his bare legs. He could no longer face his reflection. The muscles he once had were gone, replaced by soft, curvy features that felt alien. Emma was fast asleep, his head resting against the desk, his long hair spilling over his face. He had fallen asleep by the window, exhausted from the overwhelming events of the day. He didn't want to open his eyes, hoping it was all just a dream. It had to be, right? He thought. It was all in his head. Slowly, his eyes fluttered open. His bones ached from sleeping in such an awkward position. When he looked down, the disappointment hit him hard. He was still a girl. His heart sank as he sat up, feeling the full weight of his transformation. Emma sighed and made his way downstairs, dressed simply in jeans and a t-shirt. He found Rob sitting on the couch in a bathrobe, looking uncomfortable. As Emma entered the room, Rob stood quickly, his face flushing red. "Sorry," he said, embarrassed. "Why are you wearing just a bathrobe?" Emma asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "There's nothing in my room to wear," Rob stammered, walking past Emma. "Only skirts, dresses, and blouses, and all my stuff is gone." Emma muttered, lost in thought. Later, Emma went to the beach, sitting on the soft sand and watching the waves crash against the sharp rocks. The sea breeze touched his cheeks, and for a moment, he felt at peace. It was a place of serenity, a place where he could be alone and reflect. Rob had refused to leave the house, afraid of what others might think. Emma couldn't understand why Rob was so scared. He looked more like a woman than anything else. He was acting so unlike himself, but then again, how could he not? Their lives had been completely turned upside down. Emma still couldn't believe what had happened, but he couldn't escape the fact that it was real. As Emma sat there, the reality of his situation slowly dawned on him. He had become a 16-year-old girl. His heart ached, and the weight of it all overwhelmed him. He buried his face in his hands, trying to process everything. "What am I going to do?" he whispered through his hands, his small hands trembling. Emma's body began to tremble as an overwhelming wave of emotion swept over him. He looked out at the sea, feeling something catch in his throat. The lump of emotion he'd kept buried for so long finally broke free. Tears filled his eyes, and he sobbed, his body shaking with the release. "Oh God," he cried, the sound of his sobs mixing with the roar of the waves. The questions kept swirling in his mind. What caused this transformation? Was it the house? Was he hallucinating? He didn't know, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. He wanted answers, but deep down, he feared he might never get them. He felt trapped in this new reality, uncertain of what his future held. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the sea, Emma slowly made his way back to the house. The walk felt like an acceptance of his situation, as if he were finally acknowledging the truth. Inside, Rob was sitting at the kitchen counter, looking just as miserable. His blonde hair now hung down over his shoulders, and he still hadn't changed out of the bathrobe. "Hey," Rob croaked as Emma entered. Emma didn't reply right away. Instead, he took in Rob's red, blotchy face and the rawness of his emotions. It was clear they were both struggling, each in their own way. Emma sat down opposite Rob, feeling the weight of everything they had both gone through. "What are we going to do?" Emma asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "I don't know," Rob replied. "If we can't get out of here, well, I don't think we stand a chance against whatever caused this." Emma looked down, biting his lip in frustration. "That's a pretty defeatist attitude, Rob," Emma said, his voice dark. "Emma, if I knew what caused this, we'd already be looking for a way to fix it," Rob said, his eyes dropping to his chest. "We're trapped, aren't we?" Emma said, the realization sinking in. He slammed his hand on the table, then stood up and began pacing the kitchen, his hands behind his back. "Yeah, that's it. We just go on with our lives and pretend nothing's wrong. We'd make perfect girls," Emma said sarcastically. "It's that easy, right? It can't be that bad." Rob didn't respond, surprised by Emma's sudden outburst. Emma paused to catch his breath. "Emma, I don't want to be a woman. I'm supposed to be an engineer, not a housewife," Rob cried, glaring at the apron hanging beside the stove. "Nor do I want to be, 16 or 17 again, but as a girl," Emma muttered. "What could have done this to us?" Rob asked, his voice filled with confusion. "Like everything else happening, I don't know," Emma snapped. Later that night, Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling beneath the white and yellow sheets. He tore the boy band posters off the walls. Those had freaked him out, but the room still radiated femininity. It constantly reminded him of his new reality, that he was a teenage girl. He couldn't help but wonder what his life would be like now. Would he stay like this forever? Was there any way back? There has to be a way, he thought, but his hope was dim. He hadn't expected much from life before this, so why would things be any different now? Still, he tried to hold on to a sliver of hope. Hours passed as he lay awake, staring at the walls. Then, he heard Rob coming up the stairs. They hadn't spoken much that evening. "Good night, Lily," he heard Rob's voice faintly. "Lily," Emma said, confused. He quickly threw back the covers and rushed to the door, swinging it open just as Rob was about to close his. Rob looked up, startled. "What did you call me?" Emma asked, his voice quiet but demanding. "What?" "I just said good night," Rob replied, frowning. "You called me Lily?" Emma asked, his confusion deepening. "Did I? Sorry, I meant to say Emma. I don't know where I got the name Lily from," Rob stammered. Emma wasn't convinced but nodded, letting it go for the moment. Still, something about it bothered him. Why would Rob call him Lily? Emma climbed back into bed, brushing it off as a mistake, though the thought lingered in his mind. He couldn't think of any reason for Rob to have made that slip-up. "Nah, just a mistake," Emma muttered, trying to shake it off. But as he lay awake, trembling in the dark, the weight of his situation pressed down on him. He didn't like being in a house that had transformed him into a girl. He finally fell asleep around 4 in the morning, exhausted and overwhelmed. There was still much more in store for Emma and Rob. Much more than they could ever have imagined. Don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.